Why Stoics Don't Chase Validation. Part 1. The Foundation of Self-Worth. There is a kind of strength that does not depend on applause. You see it in the calmest people, the people who do not raise their voices to be heard or reshape their personalities to fit anyone else. This strength does not announce itself. It is not loud or dramatic. It is steady, quiet, and deeply rooted. This is the kind of strength the Stoics built their lives on. And this is the kind of strength you must own if you want to live with dignity, purpose, and genuine confidence. You are here because you want to understand why Stoics do not chase validation. And you are also here because, in some way, you are tired of seeking approval from people who do not even know themselves. You are tired of giving your peace away, your confidence away, and your identity away just to be accepted by others. At some point, every person reaches a moment where they must choose. Either they keep bending to the expectations of the world, or they build a mind that stands on its own. This moment, this decision, is the beginning of freedom. The Stoics knew something about human nature that most people today ignore. They understood that the desire to be liked, admired, or accepted is one of the greatest traps a human can fall into. Because the moment you depend on praise to feel complete, you have already surrendered your inner strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote that it is madness to look outside yourself for what is already inside you. He did not say this as poetry. He said it as a warning. If your sense of worth is in other people's hands, you will never have peace. Many people today move through life wearing masks. They change who they are in different rooms, around different people. They laugh at jokes they do not find funny. They pretend to agree so they are not judged. They stay silent when they should speak. They speak when they should stay silent. This kind of life is not confidence. It is emotional slavery. And the more you do it, the further you drift from the person you were meant to be. The Stoic does not live this way. The Stoic stands centered. They do not chase validation because they understand something vital. Validation is never stable. It changes with mood, with opinion, with misunderstanding, with gossip, with envy, with confusion. If you chase validation, you will always be chasing something that keeps moving, and the more you run toward it, the more it will run away from you. That is why the Stoics built a foundation that does not depend on shifting emotions or external approval. They rooted their confidence in character, not compliments. When you begin to live like this, something powerful happens. You start to feel lighter. Decisions become clearer. Relationships become honest. You stop trying to impress. You stop trying to prove anything. You stop apologizing for being yourself. You begin to walk differently, you breathe differently, you move through the world with a calm certainty that cannot be given or taken away by anyone. You must understand something important. The people who chase validation suffer the most. They fear criticism, they fear rejection, they fear disappointment, they fear being misunderstood, they fear being alone with themselves. All these fears come from one place. They never built a strong inner foundation. They depend on others to tell them who they are. And as long as they depend on others, their self-worth will always be fragile. The Stoic way is different. Instead of asking, "Do they like me?" the Stoic asks, "Do I respect myself?" Instead of asking, "Will they approve?" the Stoic asks, "Is this aligned with my values?" Instead of asking, "Will I be judged?" the Stoic asks, "Is this the right thing to do?" This shift in thinking changes everything. Your sense of worth moves from something external to something internal, and once that shift happens, validation becomes optional, approval becomes nice but not necessary, praise becomes pleasant but not defining, criticism becomes information, not an attack. Think about your own life. Think about the moments when you felt the weakest, the most insecure, the most unsteady. Almost every time those feelings came from depending on external approval. Maybe you said something and worried others judged you. Maybe you made a mistake and feared people would think less of you. Maybe you stayed in a relationship because you wanted someone to validate your existence. Maybe you stayed quiet in a room where you should have spoken. Maybe you changed your principles to avoid conflict. All of these situations share one thing: you allowed others to define your worth. And you deserve better than that. You deserve a life where your confidence is not owned by anyone else. You deserve a life where you stand firm in who you are, even when others do not understand you. You deserve a life where your mind is free from the noise of constant approval seeking. This is why Stoics do not chase validation, not because they are cold, not because they are proud, not because they are emotionless, but because they understand that the more you depend on others to validate you, the more powerless you become. And the more you validate yourself through your actions, the more powerful and stable your life becomes. In this first part, you are learning the foundation. You are learning why the Stoics built their strength from within. You are learning why validation is a dangerous addiction. And you are learning why the path to confidence begins with an inner shift. In the next part, we will go deeper. We will talk about how the Stoics trained themselves to become immune to public opinion, how they developed unshakable self-respect, and how you can do the same in your own life. Part 2, how Stoics become immune to public opinion. If you want to understand why Stoics never chase validation, you must understand how they train themselves to become immune to the weight of public opinion. This immunity is not natural. It is not something you are born with. It is something you build. It comes from discipline, clarity, and repeated practice. People today are often controlled by the opinions of others without realizing it. Someone gives them a strange look, and they feel insecure for the rest of the day. Someone criticizes their work, and they lose confidence. Someone ignores their message, and they doubt their value. Someone disapproves of their decision, and they question themselves. This is not freedom. This is imprisonment. The Stoics understood that public opinion is one of the most unstable forces in the world. It changes quickly. It is influenced by emotion, misunderstanding, envy, fear, and ignorance. If you build your identity based on something so unstable, your life will become unstable too. To protect themselves, the Stoics developed a certain mindset, a certain inner strength that made them calm, resilient, and untouchable. They trained themselves to see the truth clearly, and the truth is simple. The opinions of others are not a reflection of your worth. They are a reflection of their own perspective, their mood, their upbringing, their insecurities, their assumptions, and their interpretation of a moment. Their opinion is about them, not about you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this constantly. In his private writings, he would say, "Why should I be disturbed by another man's opinion? It is his mind, not mine." He lived with the understanding that people may say whatever they want, but he alone decides what enters his mind. This is the first technique. Separate yourself from the opinions of others. You are not their thoughts. You are not their judgments. You are not their expectations. You are only responsible for your own actions, not for their interpretations. The second technique the Stoics used is even more powerful. They understood that most people are too busy with their own struggles to truly analyze you. Think about it. Everyone you fear is thinking about their own problems, their own insecurities, their own fears, their own image, their own failures. They are not thinking about you as much as you imagine. Most people judge quickly, speak carelessly, and forget immediately. So, why let their passing thoughts determine your long-term identity? The Stoic sees through this illusion. They realize that public opinion is loud but shallow. It echoes, but it does not define. Another technique the Stoics used was mastering emotional distance. They refused to allow praise to inflate them or criticism to deflate them. They treated both the same. Seneca said, "Praise and blame are both noise. Focus on your inner compass." You must train yourself in the same way. When someone praises you, accept it humbly, but do not depend on it. When someone criticizes you, listen only if it contains truth. If it does not, let it pass through you like wind. The Stoic is stable because their identity rests on character, not applause. They measure themselves by their principles, not by opinions. This is why they are immune to public opinion. Their worth is internal, not external. A third technique is to shift your focus from approval to alignment. Instead of asking, "Do they like me?" the Stoic asks, "Did I stay true to my values?" Instead of asking, "Will they judge me?" the Stoic asks, "Was my action right?" Instead of asking, "Will they misunderstand?" the Stoic asks, "Is my conscience clear?" When your focus moves from pleasing others to honoring your principles, validation loses its power. You become grounded, you become stable, you become confident. There is another part of this immunity. The Stoics train themselves to accept that no matter what they do, someone will misunderstand them, someone will dislike them, someone will criticize them, someone will judge them. This is human nature. As soon as you accept this truth, your fear begins to disappear. Think about your own life. How many times did you hold yourself back because you feared judgment? How many times did you stay silent because you feared rejection? How many times did you suppress your true self because you feared disapproval? These fears are illusions that lose power when you face them. The Stoic embraces the reality that you cannot control how others think, but you can control how you respond, and that response determines everything. Another powerful method Stoics used is focusing on the shortness of life. When you remember that life is brief, you stop living for the approval of people who may not be in your life 10 years from now. You stop wasting time trying to please crowds that will forget your name. You stop shaping your personality for people who will not walk with you during your struggles. Time is too limited to be spent chasing validation. The Stoics knew this. They lived with awareness of mortality. They understood that the opinions of others will fade, but your character will remain with you until your last breath. This mindset frees you. It gives you the courage to live honestly, boldly, and calmly. You start to focus on what truly matters: growth, purpose, integrity, peace, self-respect. These things last. Validation does not. Finally, the Stoics practiced inner dialogue. Every time they felt the desire for approval rising within them, they paused and asked themselves, "Why do I care? What am I afraid of? What am I giving away?" They confronted their own mind. They trained it. They corrected it again and again until they became free. This is the essence of immunity. It is not that the Stoic never feels the desire for validation. It is that they recognize it, question it, and dissolve it before it controls them. You can do this too. You can train your mind to release the need for approval. You can develop the same strength, the same clarity, the same freedom. This is the core of Stoic immunity, separation from others' opinions, understanding their nature, shifting focus to values, accepting reality, remembering the shortness of life, practicing inner dialogue. These tools make you strong. These tools make you calm. These tools make you untouchable. In the next part, we will go deeper. We will talk about the emotional cost of chasing validation, why it weakens your confidence, your relationships, and your identity, and how to rebuild your self-worth through disciplined actions. Part 3. The emotional cost of chasing validation. There's a price you pay every time you chase validation. Even if you do not see it immediately, even if you feel good when others approve of you, the cost is still there. It takes something from you quietly. It slowly drains your strength. It creates a form of weakness that sits beneath the surface of your personality. And unless you see it clearly, it will limit your growth for the rest of your life. The first cost is the loss of authenticity. When you live for approval, you begin to shape yourself according to what others want from you, not what is true to you. You speak differently than you would. You laugh at things you do not find funny. You hide your real opinions. You imitate confidence instead of living it. You pretend to be comfortable when you are not. Every time you do this, you move one step further away from who you truly are. The Stoics saw authenticity as a pillar of strength. They believed that to know yourself is to be powerful, but to constantly shape yourself to please others is to lose yourself entirely. When you lose authenticity, you also lose self-trust. You begin to doubt your own thoughts, your own choices, your own voice. This creates anxiety, insecurity, and emotional instability. The second cost of chasing validation is emotional exhaustion. It is tiring to constantly seek approval. It is tiring to monitor how others see you. It is tiring to constantly adjust your behavior to be liked. It is tiring to worry about judgment. And yet people live this way every day. They wake up and step into a world where their worth is dependent on the reactions of others. This kind of life drains your energy. It steals your peace. It keeps your mind restless. The Stoics refused to live like this. They valued calmness. They valued inner peace. They understood that emotional exhaustion is a sign you are living for others, not for yourself. The third cost is loss of boundaries. When you desire approval, you tolerate things you should not tolerate. You say yes when you want to say no. You allow disrespect. You stay quiet when you should speak. You let people walk over your time, your space, your emotions, your kindness. And the more you allow this, the more people sense it. People can feel when you seek their approval. Some will misuse it. Some will manipulate it. Some will test it. Seeking validation makes you vulnerable to the wrong people. It weakens your ability to protect your dignity. It makes you easy to influence. This is why the Stoics built firm boundaries, not to be harsh, but to remain in control of themselves. The fourth cost of validation chasing is dependence. When you rely on praise to feel good, you become dependent on it. You begin to crave it the way a person craves a drug. You wait for it, you expect it, you hunger for it, and when you do not receive it, you feel empty. True confidence comes from independence. It comes from being able to stand tall even when no one is clapping. It comes from knowing your value without needing to hear it. This independence makes you strong. It makes you stable. It makes you calm. The Stoic works toward this independence every day. The fifth cost is oversensitivity. When your worth depends on others' approval, you become sensitive to everything. A small criticism can break you. A disagreement makes you feel attacked. A neutral comment makes you feel judged. A lack of attention feels like rejection. This sensitivity creates a fragile life, a life where every opinion becomes a threat, a life where every disagreement becomes a wound. Stoicism teaches emotional resilience. The Stoics believed that the mind should be trained to withstand pressure, discomfort, and criticism without falling apart. When you become resilient, you learn to stand firm even when others do not understand or support you. The sixth cost is confusion. When you chase validation, your decisions become guided by external desires, not internal clarity. You start to ask questions like, what will they think, instead of what is right for me? You start to live other people's expectations instead of your own purpose. You lose clarity, you lose direction, and as a result, your life becomes scattered. The Stoics valued clarity. They valued rational judgment. They valued the wisdom of knowing what matters and what does not. When you stop chasing approval, your mind becomes clearer, your decisions become stronger, your purpose becomes sharper. The seventh cost of validation chasing is fear. The fear of being disliked, the fear of being judged, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of being ignored, the fear of disappointing others. These fears become walls that prevent you from living boldly. They prevent you from taking risks. They prevent you from speaking your truth. They prevent you from evolving. You cannot grow if you fear judgment. You cannot change if you fear disapproval. You cannot succeed if you fear failing in front of others. Stoicism teaches you to face fear with reason. It teaches you to understand that most fears come from imagination, not reality. And when you see this, fear loses its power. The eighth cost is self-abandonment. Every time you silence your voice to be accepted, you abandon yourself. Every time you betray your values to be liked, you abandon yourself. Every time you pretend to be something you are not, you abandon yourself. Self-abandonment is one of the deepest forms of pain. It may not be loud, but it creates long-term emotional damage. It leads to emptiness, resentment, depression, and loss of identity. The Stoic refuses to abandon themselves. They hold their values close. They protect their inner truth. They honor their principles even when it is difficult. The ninth cost of chasing validation is the loss of inner peace. Peace is impossible when your emotions rise and fall based on other people's opinions. Peace is impossible when your worth depends on external reaction. Peace is impossible when your sense of self is borrowed from the outside world. The Stoics believed that peace is the highest form of wealth. They believe that the mind is healthy when it is undisturbed, steady, and self-governed. Chasing validation interrupts this peace. It brings chaos into the mind. It creates storms where there should be calm. And the final cost is this: you lose your destiny. You lose the life you could have lived. When you chase validation, you are not following your path. You are following the path others set for you. You postpone your dreams. You shrink your potential. You silence your power. You become a reflection of the world instead of the creator of your own world. This is why the Stoics refused to chase validation. They understood the emotional cost. They understood the psychological damage. They understood the spiritual emptiness. They understood that a person who depends on approval is never truly free. In the next part, the final part, you will learn how to rebuild your self-worth. how to detach from the need for validation, and how to walk with a confidence rooted in your values, your purpose, and your inner strength. Part 4. Rebuilding your self-worth the Stoic way. Everything changes when you stop chasing validation. Your mind changes, your relationships change, your confidence changes, your life changes. But to reach that level of strength, you must rebuild yourself from the inside out. This final part will show you exactly how to do that, step by step, the Stoic way. The first step is to define your values. You cannot stop chasing validation unless you know what you stand for. Values are the foundation of a stable life. They give you direction when emotions pull you in different directions. They give you clarity when other people's opinions confuse you. They give you strength when you face criticism. Sit with yourself. Ask yourself these simple questions. What matters to me? What do I believe in? What kind of person do I want to become? Your values are not for others to approve. They are for you to live by. Once your values are clear, validation becomes less important because you are guided by something deeper. The second step is to practice self-respect. You teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. If you break your own promises, others will not trust your word. If you tolerate disrespect, others will push your boundaries. If you speak poorly of yourself, others will believe you. Self-respect is not arrogance. It is the foundation of personal strength. To build self-respect, start by keeping small promises to yourself. Wake up on time. Finish a task you set. Speak truthfully. Walk away from what insults your dignity. Every time you do these things, your self-respect grows and the need for validation shrinks. The third step is emotional discipline. This is a core Stoic principle. You cannot control what people think, but you can control how you respond. Emotional discipline does not mean suppressing feelings. It means not letting those feelings control your actions. When you are criticized, stay calm. When you are misunderstood, stay centered. When you are disrespected, stay steady. A disciplined mind does not react impulsively. It responds with reason. This is what separates strength from weakness. The fourth step is to set firm boundaries. Without boundaries, you will always feel the need to please others. You will always feel responsible for their emotions. You will always compromise your own peace. Boundaries are the lines you draw that say, this is what I accept, and this is what I do not accept. They are not confrontational. They are not aggressive. They are simply a statement of self-respect. When you set boundaries, you protect your energy, your time, and your identity. And when you do that, validation loses its influence. The fifth step is to embrace solitude. Many people chase validation because they fear being alone. They fear their own thoughts. They fear silence. But solitude is powerful. It is where you learn who you are. It is where you develop independence. It is where you build inner peace. The Stoics spent time alone intentionally. They understood that solitude strengthens the mind. It teaches you that you can stand with yourself without needing an audience. The more comfortable you are alone, the less you depend on others to validate you. The sixth step is to live honestly. Honesty is the root of confidence. When you live in alignment with your values, when your actions match your words, when your behavior reflects your principles, you feel grounded, you feel steady, you feel whole. Dishonesty creates a split within you. A part of you knows you are not being true, and that part feels insecure. Living honestly removes this insecurity. It builds a quiet strength that does not need approval. The seventh step is accepting imperfection. You will make mistakes. You will fail. You will say the wrong thing. You will disappoint someone. You will be misunderstood. This is life. Validation chasers fear these moments because they think mistakes erase their worth. Stoics embrace these moments because they know mistakes are part of growth. You do not need to be perfect to be worthy. You need to be consistent. You need to be sincere. You need to be willing to learn. When you stop fearing imperfection, you stop needing others to reassure you. The eighth step is practicing detachment. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You stop depending. You stop attaching your identity to external things. You stop tying your self-worth to applause. Detachment creates inner space, and in that space, peace grows. When someone approves of you, appreciate it. When they do not, remain calm. Your worth does not rise or fall with their opinions. You remain the same, grounded, steady, whole. The ninth step is to cultivate inner stillness. The Stoics often spoke of a still mind, a mind that is not constantly shaken by external noise, a mind that stands firm like a mountain. Stillness does not happen by accident. It comes from practice. It comes from breathing deeply. It comes from slowing down your reactions. It comes from observing your thoughts without letting them carry you away. When your mind becomes still, validation loses its grip on you. The final step is this: live for purpose, not applause. Applause fades, opinions shift, crowds change, but purpose stays. Purpose gives your life meaning. It directs your actions. It strengthens your discipline. It anchors you when you feel lost. Every Stoic lived for purpose. Marcus Aurelius lived for virtue. Epictetus lived for freedom of the mind. Seneca lived for wisdom. None of them lived for applause. None of them lived for external praise. And yet their words, their ideas, their character still inspire the world today. Purpose outlives validation. When you begin to live with purpose, when your decisions come from clarity instead of fear, when your actions come from values instead of approval, your life becomes stronger, calmer, and more meaningful. You no longer feel the need to chase validation because your confidence comes from something deeper. So now, as this speech closes, remember this: you do not have to prove your worth to anyone. You do not need applause to feel valuable. You do not need validation to feel whole. Everything you need is already inside you. Your strength, your clarity, your direction, your purpose, your truth. The Stoics did not chase validation because they built a life rooted in self-respect, discipline, and inner peace. You can build the same. And when you do, your presence will speak louder than any applause ever could. Stand firm, be steady, be true, and let the world feel the calm power of someone who no longer needs validation to walk with dignity. Thank you.